They're huge, shocking, and unforgettable. Meet the tallest, heaviest, and strongest real people to ever walk the earth.
They're weird, stunning, and unforgettable. From people with the strangest bodies to those with impossible minds, these are the most bizarre and unbelievable real people ever to walk the earth. The man who stopped sleeping. In 1973, Vietnamese farmer Thien Ngoc contracted a fever. When it broke, his need for sleep did not return. He has not slept in over 50 years. His cognition and daily function remain intact. Researchers suspect a rare mutation in adenosine regulation, the chemical mechanism that normally accumulates sleep pressure. Without it, his brain simply never demands the shutdown that every other human cannot survive without. Muscles that never fatigue. In 2006, Dean Karnazes ran 50 marathons in 50 consecutive states, then continued for 350 miles without stopping. In controlled testing, researchers could not determine at what point his muscles would fail. His lactic acid clearance rate was so efficient that his metabolic ceiling could not be identified. 22 minutes without air. On April 3, 2012, Danish freediver Stig Severinsen submerged himself in a pool. He did not surface for 22 minutes and 22 seconds, setting the world record for static apnea. He holds a medical doctorate and understands exactly what his body does during those 22 minutes. Most people lose consciousness within 4 to 6 minutes. He survives nearly 4 times that. The Iceman. In 2011, Wim Hof received a bacterial endotoxin injection in a controlled laboratory and produced none of the fever, nausea, or immune response it triggers in every other test subject. He suppressed his own immune cascade through breath control and concentration. A peer-reviewed paper published in 2014 confirmed it and redefined what medicine had classified as involuntary. The Electroman. In documented demonstrations before researchers at the University of Kerala, Rajmohan Nair has passed mains electricity through his body at voltages fatal to any other human subject. His measured skin resistance is orders of magnitude higher than the population norm, reducing current penetration even as lethal voltage passes through his skin. He has powered a light bulb through his tongue. The human camera. In 2001, Stephen Wiltshire was flown over London for 45 minutes, then placed before an 18-foot canvas. Over 5 days, working from memory alone, he drew the entire city skyline, every building proportioned, every window counted. An architectural survey afterward confirmed his proportions accurate to within a fraction of a percent. He drew in pen, without a single correction. The blind man who sees with sound. Daniel Kish lost both eyes before age 2. By age 3, he had independently developed human echolocation, navigating by tongue clicks and their returning echoes. He rides a bicycle through traffic. Brain imaging confirmed that his visual cortex activates during echolocation. The brain, denied sight, repurposed its visual processing centers for spatial acoustic data. He has since taught the technique to hundreds of people. The woman who cannot forget. Since age 14, Jill Price has involuntarily recalled every event of her life with complete accuracy, non-stop. Neurologist James McGaugh published her case in 2006 as the first confirmed case of hyperthymesia, or superior autobiographical memory. Testing verified her recall across hundreds of specific dates. She describes it not as a gift, but as an exhausting loop of her own past running in parallel with her present. The strongest toddler. At 5 months, Liam Hoekstra could hold his own body weight in the air. By age 3, he was performing the Iron Cross with body fat below 1%. The cause was a mutation in the myostatin gene, the protein that limits muscle growth. Without it, his muscles developed without a biological governor, producing a physique in a toddler that most adult athletes spend careers trying to approach. Struck by lightning 7 times. Between 1942 and 1977, U.S. Park Ranger Roy Sullivan was struck by lightning 7 verified times. Each strike was documented. The odds of being struck once are approximately 1 in 15,000 in a lifetime. He survived all 7. Listed in the Guinness World Records as the most lightning-struck person in history, he died in 1983 of a self-inflicted gunshot wound, the 7-time survivor of nature's most violent force, undone by something nature never sent. 6 miles without a parachute. On January 26, 1972, JAT Yugoslav Airlines Flight 367 was destroyed by a bomb at 10,000 meters. All 32 aboard were killed except flight attendant Vesna Vulovic, found alive in the snow after falling more than 6 miles inside a fuselage section. She had a fractured skull, 2 broken legs, and 3 broken vertebrae. She woke from a coma after 27 days. She returned to work. She never feared flying. 7 disasters, 1 lottery. Between 1962 and 1995, Croatian music teacher Frane Selak survived a train into a frozen river, being ejected from a plane mid-flight, a bus crash into a river, 2 separate car fires, and a collision that sent his car off a cliff while he grabbed a tree branch. In 2003, at 74, he won the Croatian national lottery. He gave most of it away and said the disasters had taught him how little material things mattered. Both atomic bombs. On August 6, 1945, Tsutomu Yamaguchi was 3 kilometers from the Hiroshima bomb. He survived, and on August 9th he was describing the explosion to his supervisor in his Nagasaki office when the second bomb detonated, again 3 kilometers away. He survived both. The Japanese government formally recognized him as the only confirmed double atomic bomb survivor in 2009. He died in 2010 at 93. 2 miles down, 11 days out. On December 24, 1971, 17-year-old Julian Köpke fell approximately 3,200 meters through the Amazon canopy when Lanza Flight 508 broke apart after a lightning strike. She was the only survivor of 92. She walked alone through the jungle for 11 days, treating larval wounds in her arm with gasoline from an abandoned boat engine, until loggers found her. She later earned a doctorate in zoology. The arm that had to go. On April 26, 2003, an 800-pound boulder pinned Aaron Ralston's right wrist in a Utah canyon. He spent 5 days trapped. On the 5th day, facing death by dehydration within hours, he broke both forearm bones against the canyon wall and amputated his own hand with a 2-inch multi-tool blade. He then applied a tourniquet, rappelled 65 feet, and hiked 5 miles to reach the rescue. He said it was the moment he stopped trying to free the boulder and decided to free himself from his arm. 9 days in the Sahara. In 1994, Italian pentathlete Mauro Prosperi was separated from the Marathon des Sables course by a sandstorm. He wandered for 9 days, his weight dropping from 73 to 48 kilograms, surviving on urine, bats, and animal blood. He attempted suicide. His blood had become so dehydrated that it clotted immediately. He was too dry to bleed to death. He recovered, trained for 2 years, and returned to complete the race. 60 hours on the ocean floor. On May 26, 2013, the tugboat Jaskin 4 sank 30 meters to the ocean floor off Nigeria. Cook Harrison Okini found himself alone in an air pocket with a bottle of Coca-Cola and no light, listening through the hull as fish consumed his 12 crewmates. He survived approximately 60 hours before deep-sea divers on a body recovery operation opened the door and found him alive. 133 days on a raft. On November 23, 1942, merchant mariner Poon Lim survived the sinking of the SS Ben Lomond. When emergency supplies ran out, he built a hook from flashlight wire, caught fish and birds by hand, squeezed fluid from fish flesh, and survived a hurricane by tying himself to the raft with his belt. He was rescued on April 5, 1943, 133 days. The record has never been broken. Miss Unsinkable. Violet Jessup was aboard the RMS Titanic when it sank in 1912 and survived in a lifeboat. In 1916, she was aboard the HMHS Britannic when it struck a mine and sank. She survived again. She had previously been aboard the RMS Olympic when it collided with a warship in 1911. 3 sister ships, 3 disasters. She returned to sea service after each one. The prisoner who survived a volcano. On May 7, 1902, the night before the eruption, Ludger Silberus was placed in solitary confinement in Saint-Pierre, Martinique, a stone dungeon with only a narrow floor-level grate. On May 8th, Mount Pelées' pyroclastic flow killed between 29,000 and 40,000 people and destroyed the entire city in under 2 minutes. Silberus survived in his cell, sustained burns through the grate, and was the only survivor of the city. His imprisonment had become the most fortunate in human history. Head in a particle accelerator. On July 13, 1978, Soviet physicist Anatoly Bugorsky placed his head into the path of a proton beam in the U-70 synchrotron when the safety mechanism failed. The beam passed through the back of his skull, through his brain, and out through his nose. He saw a flash brighter than 1,000 suns. The dose deposited was estimated at hundreds of times the invariably lethal level. The left side of his face became permanently paralyzed. He completed his PhD. He did not die. The man who saved the world. On September 26, 1983, Soviet duty officer Stanislav Petrov watched his early warning system detect 5 incoming American missiles. Protocol required immediate reporting, which would have triggered a retaliatory launch. He decided alone that the alarm was a false positive. He was right. Sunlight on high-altitude clouds had fooled the satellite. He was reassigned. He received no formal commendation. Every person alive today owes their continued existence in some measure to that single decision. The torpedo that was never fired. On October 27, 1962, Soviet submarine B-59 was operating near Cuba, cut off from Moscow, its captain convinced that war had broken out. The captain and political officer agreed to fire a nuclear torpedo. Protocol required the flotilla commander's agreement. Vasily Arkhipov refused. The submarine surfaced. Thomas Blanton of the National Security Archive stated in 2002, "A man called Vasily Arkhipov saved the world." He died in 1998 without a single formal award from his government. The lottery 4 times. Between 1993 and 2010, Joan Ginther of Bishop, Texas, won the Texas lottery 4 separate times, collecting over $20 million. The compound odds have been calculated at approximately 1 in 18 septillion. She holds a PhD in statistics from Stanford, has never explained her wins, and has given no interviews. An investigative reporter suggested that she may have reverse-engineered the algorithm that determines where winning tickets appear. The Lottery Commission found no wrongdoing. She has not spoken. 14 minutes. Lucky twice. In 1998, Australian truck driver Bill Morgan was clinically dead for 14 minutes, spent 12 days in a coma, and emerged with no brain damage. He won a car in a scratch-off lottery. A news crew came to film the story. As part of the segment, he scratched another ticket on camera and won $250,000 on live television. His face, staring at the ticket and beginning to laugh, is one of the most concentrated expressions of improbability ever filmed. The human computer. On June 18, 1980, at Imperial College London, Shakuntala Devi was given 2 random 13-digit numbers and asked to multiply them. She produced the correct answer in 28 seconds, faster than the computer, verifying it. She had no formal mathematical training, was born to a circus performer in Bangalore, and discovered her ability as a child. She died in April 2013 at 83. Every day's weather since 1979. On January 17, 1979, 10-year-old Orlando Serrell was struck on the head by a baseball and said nothing. Months of headaches followed, then stopped. What remained? He can instantly tell you the day of the week and the weather for any date since the accident. He is classified as an acquired savant. He does not calculate. He simply knows. The man who sees fractals. In 2002, Jason Padgett was attacked outside a karaoke bar in Tacoma and kicked in the head. When he recovered, every surface he saw was covered in geometric fractal patterns. He had no mathematical background. Within weeks, he was drawing precise representations of number theory concepts he had never been taught, working entirely from visual intuition. Researchers at the Mayo Clinic classified him as an acquired savant. Lightning made him a pianist. In 1994, orthopedic surgeon Tony Sikoria was struck by lightning outside an Albany phone booth, briefly died, and was revived. Within weeks, he was obsessively listening to piano music, a genre he had never particularly liked. Within months, he had taught himself to play. Within a few years, he was composing. His piece, the Lightning Sonata, is performed publicly. He describes the music as arriving fully formed. He was transcribing, not inventing. The pool that made a musician. In 2006, Derek Amato dove into a shallow swimming pool, struck his head, and 4 days later sat down at a keyboard he had never played seriously and performed complex music with both hands. He lost 35% of his hearing in the same accident. He became a musician at the precise moment part of his hearing was destroyed. He sees music as black and white lines in his field of vision that he reads and translates into the keyboard. The real Rain Man. Kim Peek was born in 1951 without a corpus callosum. In its absence, his two brain hemispheres had direct synaptic connections, a configuration not seen in any other documented case. He read 2 pages simultaneously, one with each eye, across an estimated 12,000 books, retaining them near perfectly. He could not button his shirt. He inspired the character Raymond Babbitt in Rain Man. Dustin Hoffman said Peek was the most remarkable human being he had ever met. Blind, autistic, and the world's musical archive. Born at 25 weeks in 1979, Derek Paravicini's sight was destroyed by the oxygen therapy that saved his life. By 2, he was playing piano by ear. At 9, he performed at the Barbican. He can play any piece in any style, transposed to any key after a single hearing. He cannot live independently or analytically describe what he does. He knows music the way the rest of us breathe. One listen is enough. Born in 1952 with cerebral palsy, intellectual disability, and blindness, Leslie Lemke was abandoned and adopted by nurse May Lemke. At 16, May was woken at 3 in the morning by piano music. Leslie, who had never had a lesson, was playing Tchaikovsky's Piano Concerto No. 1 in full, note for note, having heard it once on television hours earlier. He had never touched the piano before that moment. The sculptural memory. Alonzo Clemens sustained a childhood head injury that left him with significant intellectual disability. He can sculpt any animal from clay with anatomical precision after a single glance at an image, completing detailed works in as little as 20 minutes. His sculptures sell for thousands of dollars in galleries and are accurate enough for educational use. He does not sketch. He builds from an internal model that is complete before his hands begin. The Rubber Boy. Daniel Browning Smith holds the Guinness World Record as the most flexible person in history. He can dislocate both arms, rotate his torso 180 degrees, and fit his body through an unstrung tennis racket. His condition is extreme Ehlers-Danlos connective tissue hypermobility, producing elasticity without the chronic pain typical of the syndrome. He appears in positions that look digitally manipulated. They are not. No pain, no anxiety. Retired Scottish teacher Jo Cameron was 65 when hip surgery led her surgeon to refer her to geneticists at University College London. Her post-operative pain medication requirement was near 0. Researchers found she carries 2 mutations, including one in a previously unidentified gene named FH-out, that together eliminate her ability to feel pain and substantially reduce anxiety. Her baseline state is pervasive well-being. The gene had not existed in any scientific database before her case. She smells Parkinson's. In 1986, Scottish nurse Joy Milne noticed her husband had developed a new musky odor. 12 years later, he was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. In a controlled test, 12 T-shirts, 6 from patients, 6 from healthy controls, she correctly identified all 12. The one she flagged as Parkinson's from the healthy group was diagnosed 8 months later. She had detected the disease before symptoms appeared. A skin swab diagnostic test derived from her discovery is now in development. 20 times better than average. German dentist Veronika Seider, born in 1951, was measured at the University of Stuttgart with a visual acuity 20 times that of the human standard. Normal vision is 20/20. Hers tested at 20/2. She could identify individuals from more than a mile away. She entered the Guinness World Records in 1972 and returned to practicing dentistry. The woman who tastes sound. Swiss scientist Elisabeth Sulzer possesses one of the most complex documented cases of synesthesia ever recorded: simultaneous cross-modal connections between sound, color, taste, emotion, and physical sensation. A violin in a minor key produces a dark blue, a sour apple taste, and a physical downward pressure in her chest simultaneously. Her 2012 paper in PLOS ONE described her as one of the most multimodal synesthetic individuals in the scientific literature. The samurai who cuts bullets. Iaido master Isao Machi holds Guinness World Records for feats of sword precision beyond the theoretical limits of human reaction time, including slicing an invisible BB pellet traveling at over 200 miles per hour. Neuroscientists at Waseda University found he does not react to the pellet. His nervous system constructs a predictive model of its trajectory from the sound of the rifle and the barrel angle, and places the blade in position before the pellet arrives. The man who ate a Cessna. Between 1978 and 1980, French entertainer Michel Lotito ate a Cessna 150 aircraft, including the fuselage, tires, instrumentation, and engine parts, ground into pieces and consumed with mineral oil over approximately 2 years. The aircraft weighs around 1,600 pounds. His stomach lining was twice the normal thickness. His gastric acid was documented as unusually potent. He consumed an estimated 9 tons of metal over his lifetime. He died in 2007 of causes that were not gastric. The stretchiest skin in history. Gary Turner holds the Guinness World Record for the stretchiest skin, pulling the stomach outward by 15.8 centimeters and releasing without damage. His condition is Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, produced by deficient collagen cross-linking. In most presentations, the condition is debilitating. Turner's syndrome is primarily expressed in extreme skin extensibility. He has performed publicly for years in positions that look physically impossible. The human special effect. Spanish actor Javier Botet has Marfan syndrome, extreme height, very long limbs and fingers, and joint hypermobility, allowing body configurations that CGI routinely attempts and rarely achieves convincingly. He has played the Mama Creature, the Slender Man, and Crooked Man in The Conjuring 2, and creature roles for Warner Brothers, Universal, and Blumhouse. Directors describe the difference between his live movement and computer-generated approximations as immediately and unmistakably visible. 2 minds, 1 body. Born in 1990 in Minnesota as dicephalic parapagus twins, 2 heads, 2 hearts, 2 sets of arms, 1 pelvis, 2 legs, Abby and Brittany Hensel graduated from university, obtained separate teaching certifications, and have worked as 5th-grade teachers. They drive a car, each controlling the limbs on their side. They married in 2021. Every aspect of their life is a continuous negotiation between 2 distinct personalities, sharing one body's movement, with no template in human experience to guide it. No limbs, no limits. Nick Vujicic was born in 1982 in Melbourne with no arms and no legs, tetra amelia syndrome. He attempted suicide at 10. At 17, he began speaking publicly. He has since addressed audiences in over 60 countries, married, and has 4 children. He does not describe his life as a triumph over adversity. He describes it as a life, specifically and irreducibly his. Dwarf and giant. Adam Rayner was born in 1899 in Graz, Austria, and by his early 20s stood at 4 feet 6, clinically a dwarf. A pituitary tumor then caused him to grow in his mid-20s. By 1931, he stood at 7 feet 2. By his death in 1950, he had reached 7 feet 8. He is the only person in recorded medical history to have been formally classified in the same medical file as both a dwarf and a giant. 8 feet 3. Sultan Kozan, born in 1982 in Turkey, stands at 8 feet 2.8 inches, the tallest living person in the world and the Guinness World Record holder since 2009. His height is the result of a pituitary tumor from adolescence. Surgeons halted his growth with gamma knife surgery in 2010 when he was 27. He requires crutches for extended walking because the mechanical load on his joints exceeds what human joint architecture was designed to bear. 2 feet tall. Jyoti Amge of Nagpur, India, stands at 2 feet 0.6 inches, the world's smallest living woman, certified by Guinness on her 18th birthday in December 2011. Her condition is achondroplasia, caused by a mutation in the FGFR3 gene. She attended mainstream school, has acted in American Horror Story, and has appeared alongside Sultan Kozan at Guinness events. Together, they represent the full height spectrum of the human species in a single photograph. 122 years. Jean Calment of Arles, France, was born on February 21, 1875, and died on August 4, 1997, at 122 years and 164 days, the longest confirmed human lifespan in history. She took up fencing at 85 and rode a bicycle at 100. She smoked until 117. The last uncontacted people. On North Sentinel Island in the Bay of Bengal, a population of several dozen to several hundred people lives in complete isolation from the modern world. Their language has never been deciphered. The Indian government enforces a 3 nautical mile exclusion zone. In 2018, American missionary John Allen Chow was killed after illegally attempting to land. They have communicated their preference for non-contact through sustained hostility toward every approach throughout recorded history. 24 personalities. In 1977, William Milligan was acquitted of rape and robbery in Columbus, Ohio, the first person in American legal history to be acquitted of a major crime on the grounds of multiple personality disorder. Psychiatric evaluations documented 24 distinct personalities, male and female, ranging in age from 3 to 23, speaking different languages. The legal precedent his case established has been tested in courts ever since. He died in December 2014. The Feral Child. On November 4, 1970, a 13-year-old girl later named Jeannie was brought to a Los Angeles hospital. She had been confined to a single room since infancy, strapped to a chair during the day and caged at night, with virtually no human contact for all 13 years. She could not speak. Linguists spent years working with her. She acquired vocabulary. She never acquired grammar. Her case established the concept of the critical period for first language acquisition and the irreversible cost of missing it. The man who could not stop eating. By military physician Dr. Percy during the Revolutionary Wars. He weighed approximately 100 pounds, yet required the equivalent of a quarter of a cow per day. His jaw could open wide enough to swallow an apple whole. Percy fed live animals to him in clinical experiments. He was implicated in the disappearance of an infant from the hospital ward. His autopsy in 1798 revealed internal conditions so extreme that the examination had to be abandoned. 68 years of hiccups. In 1922, Charles Osborne of Anthon, Iowa, began hiccuping while slaughtering a hog. He did not stop for 68 years, from 1922 to 1990, at 20 to 40 times per minute. He married twice, had 8 children, and ran a farm. His hiccups stopped spontaneously in 1990. He died 11 months later. The Blue People of Kentucky. In the early 19th century, French orphan Martin Fugate settled in the isolated community of Troublesome Creek, Kentucky. He married a woman who, like him, carried a recessive gene for methemoglobinemia, a condition producing distinctly blue-tinted skin. In the isolated mountain community, the gene concentrated across generations until multiple family members were born visibly blue. Hematologist Madison Cowain reached the family in the 1960s, identified the cause, and administered methylene blue, turning them pink within minutes. Several declined further treatment. Carrying his twin for 36 years, Sanju Bhagat, a farmer from Nagpur, India, had been distended as if permanently pregnant for his entire adult life. In June 1999, surgeons operated when the growth began compressing his diaphragm. What they removed was his parasitic twin, a fetus in fetu, the partially developed body of a sibling absorbed into his abdomen during prenatal development, surviving as a parasitic organism for 36 years. It had a face, hands with fingernails, and hair. Sanju survived the surgery. The youngest mother in history. On May 14, 1939, Lina Medina of Tecrapo, Peru, gave birth by cesarean section in Lima. She was 5 years, 7 months, and 21 days old. The youngest confirmed mother in medical history. She had experienced precocious puberty with full reproductive development before age 3. The identity of the father was never established. She named her son Gerardo after her doctor. He died at 40. She outlived him. 18 years in an airport. In 1988, Iranian refugee Mehran Karimi Nasseri was refused entry to France at Charles de Gaulle Airport. Unable to enter or leave, he stayed. For 18 years, he lived on a bench near Gate 26 in Terminal 1, reading, writing in his journal, eating food from airport staff. His case inspired Steven Spielberg's 2004 film, The Terminal. He returned to the airport in his final months and died there in November 2022. 60 years without bathing. Amu Haji was an Iranian man who had not bathed in approximately 60 years when Iranian journalists documented him in the early 2010s. He lived in isolation, preferred rotting porcupine meat, and smoked cigarettes stuffed with animal dung. Dermatologists reviewing his photographs noted his skin surface had developed a layered biological complexity, suggesting its own microbial ecosystem. In 2022, he bathed for the first time. He died weeks later. The Hammerhead. John Ferraro holds a Guinness World Record for hammering the most nails into wood using his forehead as the impact surface. Medical imaging has documented his skull bone density as significantly above the normal population range, producing a structure that treats repeated directed impact as a manageable load. He performs the act professionally. The record is not technique, it is biology. 450 modifications. Rolf Buchholz of Dortmund, Germany, held the Guinness World Record for the most body modifications, with over 450 piercings and implants, including 2 subdermal silicone horns above his brow and magnetic fingertip implants. He received his first piercing at 40 and accelerated with a persistence he described as compulsive. He was denied entry to Dubai in 2014. He died suddenly in Germany in 2021. The six-fingered pitcher. Dominican Republic pitcher Antonio Alfonseca was born with 6 fingers on each hand and 6 toes on each foot. The extra pitching hand digit was non-functional but altered his grip's aerodynamic profile. Some analysts believed his pitches moved unpredictably as a result. He recorded 142 career saves in Major League Baseball. Whether the 6th finger helped or simply coexisted, it ensured descriptions of his pitching always began in the same place. 76 hours on one leg. Indian endurance practitioner Surya Kumar stood on one leg for 76 hours and 40 minutes, setting a Guinness World Record. One-legged standing compounds fatigue far more quickly than bilateral standing, requiring continuous proprioceptive adjustments at the ankle, knee, and hip. At 76 hours, every stabilizing system in his body had been active for over 3 days. Vehicles drive over his chest. Indian performer Arun Raikar has allowed loaded vehicles, including cars and trucks, to drive over his body on multiple documented occasions and remained unharmed. The ability relies on specific positioning, breath control, and core tension, distributing load across the skeletal structure rather than compressing soft tissue. He acknowledges the technique, distinguishing his case from claims of supernatural invulnerability. The Magnet Man. Malaysian Liu. Thao Lin demonstrated in documented settings the ability to have metal objects, including iron plates, tools, and other items, adhere to his bare skin without mechanical attachment. He pulled cars with a chain placed against his chest. Medical testing at the University of Malaysia found no magnetic field. The mechanism was identified as unusually high skin friction, producing suction-like adhesion. 3 grandchildren demonstrated the same property in documented tests. 8 World Memory Championships. Dominic O'Brien won the World Memory Championship 8 times between 1991 and 2004. He memorized a shuffled deck in under a minute and 2,808 binary digits in 30 minutes. He invented the Dominic system, a mnemonic code used by competitive memorizers worldwide. He states his natural memory was not exceptional before training. Every record is the product of a deliberately constructed system applied over decades. A deck in 24 seconds. Ben Pridmore of Derby memorized a full deck of 52 shuffled playing cards in 24.68 seconds. Each card corresponds to a pre-memorized image. These images are placed along a memorized spatial route at roughly 1 per half second. He is a 3-time world memory champion and can precisely describe every component of his methodology. His records represent the outer boundary of what trained memory can achieve. 59 decks. Dave Farrow holds the Guinness record for memorizing the most shuffled playing card decks, 59 complete decks, 3,068 cards, in one session with 98.7% accuracy. He has ADHD and dyslexia and developed memory techniques as a coping mechanism for academic difficulty, demonstrating that neurological profiles that create processing difficulties in conventional learning can produce extraordinary outcomes through different methods. 100,000 digits of pi. On October 3rd and 4th, 2006, Akira Haraguchi recited 100,000 digits of pi from memory over approximately 16 hours in Chiba, Japan. His method converts digit sequences into narrative stories. He describes the practice not as competition but as a form of contemplation, engagement with the only infinite sequence embedded in elementary mathematics. The 100,000 digits are the byproduct. 67,000 digits of pi. On November 20, 2005, chemistry student Chao Lu recited 67,890 digits of pi in 24 hours and 4 minutes, setting a Guinness World Record. He studied for 4 years before the attempt, made a single error at digit 67,891, and returned to his chemistry studies. The record is the footnote. The chemistry was always the point. The man who reads vinyl. Philadelphia physician Arthur Lincoln can identify classical music recordings by examining vinyl groove patterns without playing them. He reads the physical spacing and depth of the grooves and identifies the composer, the piece, and often the conductor. Researcher James Randi tested him in 1981 under controlled conditions. He confirmed he correctly identified every record presented, calling the ability not paranormal but a genuine and extraordinary perceptual skill. The girl with X-ray eyes. Natasha Demkina of Saransk, Russia, reportedly began seeing inside the human body at age 10. In 2004, she was given a controlled test in New York. 7 subjects, 6 with diagnosed conditions, 1 healthy. She correctly identified 4 of 7, 1 above the preset chance threshold. Researchers concluded her ability was undemonstrated. Her supporters disputed the design. She trained in medicine in Japan. The question of what she can do precisely remains genuinely open. The Raphael of cats. Gottfried Mind was born in 1768 in Bern, classified as intellectually disabled, unable to read or write. He could draw cats with a precision and emotional accuracy that earned him the nickname the Raphael of cats from contemporary critics and the admiration of King George IV of England, who purchased his work. His fidelity to a cat's character surpassed, in the assessment of trained artists of his era, what technique alone could produce. He died in 1814. The blind autistic painter. Born in Scotland in 1952 with autism and functionally blind without thick corrective lenses, Richard Warrow developed a wax crayon technique using extreme pressure that produced luminous layered works of architectural and landscape precision, apparently exceeding what his limited corrected vision could account for. Margaret Thatcher and Pope John Paul II collected his work, over 1,000 works. He died in 2006. His technique has never been replicated. The acquired savants. Jason Paget, Tony Tikoria, Derek Amato, Tommy McHugh, and Orlando Sorrell all sustained brain injuries and emerged with abilities they did not possess before. The implication, discussed in the peer-reviewed literature, is that those capacities were present before the injuries but unexpressed. If they were there and released by damage, the question becomes unavoidable. What unexpressed abilities does the standard human brain contain that its normal processing continuously suppresses? The research community remains divided. The acquired savants remain the evidence. Art after a brain hemorrhage. In 2001, former drug user and criminal Tommy McHugh from Liverpool, with no history of artistic interest, suffered a brain hemorrhage in both hemispheres. When he recovered, he could not stop writing poetry and painting. He covered every surface of his home. Cambridge researchers classified his case as acquired savant syndrome, combined with frontal lobe disinhibition. He described himself as 2 separate people, the man before and the artist after. He died in 2012. 39 wives. Ziona Chana, leader of a Christian polygamous sect in Mizoram, India, died in June 2021 at 76. He had 39 wives, 94 children, and 33 grandchildren, over 180 people living together in a 100-room house. He is the most widely documented case of active simultaneous polygamy in modern recorded history, not in historical royal households, but in a living census-documented community. No food, no water. Indian holy man Prahlad Jani claimed he had not eaten or drunk anything since the age of 8. In 2 hospital studies in 2003 and 2010, he was monitored in sealed wards for 10 to 15 days with no access to food or water. He did not eat, drink, lose weight, or produce waste. Both studies were externally criticized for protocol gaps. No independent institution replicated them. The claim was never confirmed. It was never cleanly debunked. He died in 2020 at 90. The 15-inch waist. Kathy Young of Oak Park, California, holds the Guinness record for the smallest waist on a living person, 15 inches, 38.1 centimeters, achieved through continuous corset wearing since the 1950s. A standard soda can measures 13.3 centimeters. She has been certified by Guinness multiple times across 60 years of consistent measurement. She describes her corsets as comfortable. The longest fingernails. Ayanna Williams of Spring, Texas, grew her fingernails for over 2 decades to a total combined length of approximately 18 feet, 10.9 inches. Guinness certified in 2017 as the world's longest. In 2021, at 67, she had them cut for the first time in over 20 years. The cutting took 2 hours and required specialist equipment. The nails are now on permanent display at Ripley's Believe It or Not. She subsequently began growing them again. 18 feet of hair. Xie Qiuping of Guangzhou began growing her hair in 1973 at age 13. In 2004, it measured 18 feet 5.54 inches, the longest hair ever recorded on a living person after 31 years of growth. Sustained growth to that length requires a genetic variant extending the hair's anagen growth phase far beyond its normal 2 to 7 year duration. The hair she started growing in 1973 is over 50 years old. The real-life Popeye. Jeff Dabe of Stacy, Minnesota, has forearms measuring approximately 19 inches in circumference. Medical investigation found no vascular or lymphatic abnormality, simply normally constituted muscle and connective tissue, organized at a scale that anatomy charts do not contain. He leveraged them into a career as an arm wrestler. He is, by most measures, a regular person in Stacy, Minnesota, who happens to have arms that people cross cities to see. The world's biggest mouth. Francisco Domingo Joaquim of Angola holds the Guinness World Record for the world's widest mouth gape at 17 centimeters. He was discovered through a viral video of him inserting a soda can sideways into his mouth, initially assumed to be manipulated. He was brought to Los Angeles, certified in a Guinness measurement session in 2010, and returned to Angola with his record. The last person born in the 1800s. Emma Morano was born on November 29, 1899, and died on April 15, 2017 at 117. Her death closed the last living human connection to the 19th century. No person confirmed born before 1900 survived past that date. She ate 3 raw eggs a day, worked in a factory until her 70s, and had left an abusive husband in 1938. The century in which she was born no longer exists. It exists only in documents. The real-life CGI physique. Azerbaijani-born fitness athlete Bahar Nabieva has developed lower body musculature to a degree that photographs are repeatedly dismissed as digitally altered, taken in uncontrolled public settings with multiple witnesses present. She began training after being bullied for her thin legs. Specialists note her muscle belly length and attachment geometry are likely genetic prerequisites. The training expressed the architecture, but the architecture was always there. The Iranian Hulk. Sajjad Gharibi, the Iranian Hulk, is an Iranian powerlifter whose physique at approximately 155 kilograms prompted comparisons to the Marvel character and a viral career. He has competed in boxing exhibitions across multiple continents. His case represents the specific social phenomenon of a body achieving global recognition through image alone, where the visual impact of extreme scale produces a career independent of athletic achievement. The widest hips. Michael Ruffinelli of Los Angeles holds the Guinness World Record for the widest hips, with a circumference of 99 inches and a waist of approximately 40 inches. She credits the proportions to family genetics. She performs burlesque, requires custom furniture, cannot fit through standard doorways sideways, and has described herself in multiple interviews as genuinely comfortable in her body and genuinely uninterested in the perspective of those who are not. The 2 men who saved the world. Stanislav Petrov and Vasily Arkhipov each independently refused to authorize a nuclear launch that protocol and circumstance demanded. One in a bunker in 1983, one in a submarine in 1962. Both turned out to be correct. Neither received a significant formal award from his government. Their decisions were made alone, under extreme pressure, with no verification available. In both cases, the survival of the species rested entirely on the judgment of one individual. The absence of limits. Joe Cameron cannot feel pain. Jill Price cannot forget anything. These are not metaphors. They are documented genetic neurological conditions in two living women from whom two of the most fundamental regulators of human experience have been removed. One has too little signal. One has too much. Together they demonstrate that the human experience of the world is not the world itself. It is the world as filtered by a nervous system, and when the filter changes, the world changes with it. 40 days at sea. Chinese fisherman John Wang survived approximately 40 days adrift at sea after his vessel was destroyed in a storm, and was found emaciated and barely conscious by a passing ship. His survival adds to the record of oceanic endurance running from Poon Lim's 133 days to dozens of less famous cases in maritime history, each demonstrating that the limit of human survival in open ocean is set less by the ocean than by the specific resources of the individual placed in it. And thanks for watching. See you in the next video.